Hello and welcome to my channel and to a Canvas Workspace video. This video was inspired by a query that I had from a viewer, and it's about the offset function. So this video is going to concentrate specifically on that topic, the offset. What is it and why should we use it? So let's look at a quick definition of what the offset is. It is the creation of another layer of the design. It doesn't matter what that design is. It could be text, it could be an image, or it could be even a combination of both. And the great thing is that it does all the mathematical wizardry so that that additional layer maintains the proportions of the original. It is a great way of adding texture, dimension, and visual impact to the design. Let's head over to Canvas Workspace now and learn more about the offset function. On the screen I have the Canvas Workspace artboard opened up for us, and this is the download version of Canvas Workspace. To demonstrate for you just exactly how the offset can make a design stand out a bit better, we can put a shadow behind a piece of text, for example. And if you look here in our shapes, we have all these various words we could choose from. And I think we would choose summer, since we are heading into the summer season now, as at the time of this recording. I'm just going to make it a little bit larger for you, and we'll give it some color as well. Now that's fine on its own, but if you would like that to have a little more dimension, some more depth, some more visual impact, the way to do that would be by adding an offset. So we need to just click here on Edit, and we'll go to the bottom of this column here, and you'll see the offset function there. So we need to click on that first, and then we can click on offset. Now, this is the offset that comes up by default, and I'm using the inches. You can use millimeters as well, but I'm using the inches. Now the spacing, as you can see, jumps by 4 each time, but you can override that at any time and change it. So let's say I want to have 1/4 of an inch rather than, let's make that 2.5. You can have 1/4 of an inch, and then the next will be 29, 33, and so forth, all the way up to the maximum, which is 1.20, and the minimum is 0.04. So I think I'm going to go up to 0.28. That's a reasonable border that I want to have around my word. And as you'll see here in the diagram, you see this red line. That is showing you the offset line around this representation of text or an image, whatever you want. So it's putting that in the outward direction. You can have it go on inward direction as well if you want, and it would change that to the inside of the design. We want it for the outside now. The way it wraps around the corners would depend on whether you choose round, as you can see here, or bevel, as you can see here. So these are much sharper or straight lines rather than the curved round lines. So with this particular design, I think I'm going to use the round. Of course, it's up to you in your particular taste. Now, what happens with this original line, this red line? If you keep it here, it's just going to leave it on your screen. You could delete it, in which case it's just going to leave the outline or the offset line that you create and remove the rest of the image. So that means the word summer would actually disappear. So we don't want that, but we can also, if we wanted to, set it as a drawing line, in which case it would make this offset line a drawing line rather than a cut line. So, for example, you could use that for faux stitching, where you can have that set as a drawing line and then choose the sort of dash pattern that you want. We're going to make this one a cutting line. So we'll go back to leave as is. There's one other option, which is here at the bottom, to create an offset line only around the outer edge. You can choose to have it go on the inside, which can be an advantage in some words, where if you're not actually concerned about the placement of the only thing you need to be concerned about here, though, is if the inward offset line becomes so minuscule that it could cause a problem cutting out, or it may even remove it altogether. So, but you can always go back and remove those additional lines if you like, but in this case we just want the outside of this offset line. So now we're ready to click on OK and see the result, and you can see here behind the word summer is this offset, but it actually is not behind it at the moment. If you take a look in the layers, you'll see here that summer is on the bottom. So if we were to give this some color now, let's give it a bright yellow, you'll see that it's on top. To move it, you could use your layers function, or on the up here along the top, or you can actually right click and move it. But if we just move that down here like this by grabbing it, and you see this blue line, as you start to move that down, switch places, I'll do that again for you, move that one to there. So by clicking and moving that up, you place the offset line behind the summer. So there you have both the original word summer and the offset, so that you can cut this out in two different colors of cardstock and then just layer one on top of the other, and you have a perfect offset line around the word summer. So it works very well with things like when you want to put sentiments on top of maybe cards, or if you're using it in maybe an album, something like that. It helps your text to really have more visual impact. Another way of using the offset line, let's just get rid of this. Here's another example. Let's choose another word. Let's select baby. So this is the sentiment of the word that we're going to use, baby. Okay, and let's make a drop shadow for this. we're going to offset. We're going to go outward. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit more. We'll round that off. Okay. And so we look at our layers here. So I just need to change the order of that. So our offset is going to turn into black here. And you can see if we want to offset that just a little bit, a drop shadow, what a difference that's going to make. Now, if you wanted to, you just move that out of the way. You can go back to offset. And now, remember, I said before that you can create an offset line around the outer edge only, or include the inside where it could follow a contour. So let's do that. And now you'll see you've got this piece here. So if we give that color, and you divide this, I come in closer, you can see where it's actually cut out those offset lines that are inside now. You can move them. Move these out of the way. We don't need these now. So delete those. And what we have now is this. Send that to the back. If I duplicate that, I can put them side by side so you can see the difference. So we have a solid piece behind that one, but this one gives you the very same cutout here, except of course this A here, because there was nothing to really, it's following it all the way around, you see. It's creating an offset line. As I said at the beginning of this video, you can put an offset line around any shape. So let's bring in something here. I've got this dog, I think we'll bring in. And we can create an offset so that we have pretty much a shadow behind him. Let's go to outward. Round is fine. Okay. Of course, we need to send that to the back. And that's what we'll have. And again, you could offset that if you like, or even more when you actually put it together, because you're in control once you've cut this out, you know. You can place it where you like. So if you don't want it exactly behind, you could have it maybe something like that instead. I'm just going to go back, and I'm going to go back and select the dog again. I've got the right one. I can double check that by looking at the layer. I've got the blue there, so I know that's the shape I've got selected. Go back to my offset, and in this case I'm going to select an inward offset and change the distance a bit. And now we have another layer for our dog. So you could cut those out in different colors, and you can see how it changes shape. But when you put those all together, they look just right. They don't look distorted in any way, because the offset has created that additional image in the correct proportions as to the distance that we've selected. So there you have your three pieces that you can layer one on top of the other. Is to use the offset to create a frame. And what I'm going to do is just show you what I mean. Bring a square here, and then I'm going to choose something for an aperture. Let's use this scallop circle here. Now, if, for example, if I were using this as the lid of a box that I wanted to have this scallop cut out of, and I might want to have some acetate behind it, I could, of course, just first of all make sure I've got it aligned, and then I could divide it, and then that would leave me this cutout, like so. But if I'd like to have a little more interest for this, what I would want to do is to actually frame it. So I'm going to make a frame that is going to go on the outside of this opening. Now, as you saw when I divided it, it left me with an exact copy, which I can use now to make my frame. What I'm going to do is go to Offset, and I can make this, I'm going to go with 32, I think, on this. The offset direction is going to be outward. I'm going to have rounded corners, and I'm going to leave my original shape as is. And it only has an outer edge, so that's easy. All I need to do is keep that option box clicked. Click OK, and now I have a frame. Well, it looks like a frame. It isn't actually a frame yet, because it needs to be processed a little bit further. Because if I were to grab this, for example, and move it, you can see it's two separate shapes, and we want one single shape out of this. So let's take it back to where it was, highlight both of those, go over to your process overlap, and in this case I'm going to divide. And even though it looks like nothing's happened, what has happened is this original shape has been punched through. Now, regardless, that is going to be your waste anyway on your mat when you cut this out, so that will be left. But you have this left over to use on your artboard here if you want to. And if I highlight this, you'll see with a bit of color what that frame is going to look like. So that's using divide. You can do this using subtract as well. So we'll repeat this frame again. Go to offset. Keep the same selection. OK. And now I'm going to use subtract in order to punch out this inner shape. However, as you can see, it's disappeared. And the reason it's disappeared is because the shapes are out of order in order for this subtract process to work correctly. So we'll just undo that. What you need to do is take this frame that's on the inside, or this shape that's on the inside, and bring it forward. So you put some color in here, you'll see that this was the resulting offset. That needs to go to the back because we want to cut out this original shape in order to leave just the frame. So now this is on the outside, and if I just highlight that for you and put some color, you'll see that that is on top. Just drag your mouse around both of those shapes now and click on subtract, and it's going to remove that and punch through. So now you have a perfectly formed frame that you can place around this opening. And you'll see here when I bring this one on, it's exactly the same. So it makes no difference whether you use divide or subtract. Just need to be sure that when you do subtract that you have your shapes in the correct order. So there's another way that you can use offset to give a little more interest to your design. Offset lines are also a way to make perfectly sized mats and layers. So I'll show you by bringing in this square, which I'm going to turn into a rectangle, and that's going to represent my card base. I'll give it a little bit of color here. And now if I would like to put a mat on top of this, that would be exactly 1/8 of an inch around, leaving that 1/8 of an inch border. All I have to do is click on it and go to offset and change my spacing to 1/4 of an inch, so 0.25. Change the offset direction to inward, and in this case I'm going to have a beveled corner, and I will leave the original as is. Click on OK, and if I fill that in now, you can see that I have a perfectly sized mat to go on top of my card base, and then I can continue on from there, creating more layers. So again, I would click on the next shape, and I could have that come in also at the same spacing. And maybe another. And then finally, we could have something more along these lines. So you can play with it and create whatever you like. Let's zoom in just a bit for you, and there you can see you've got perfectly formed mats and layers you can then separate onto the various cardstock or papers that you want to cut out. So that is yet another way that at least I often use the offset line to create mats and layers. Finally, I have another way that you can use the offset line. This way, we're going to use the offset as a way to carve out a piece of a letter or monogram. So this is what I've learned from another YouTuber, and I thought it was very clever. So in this case, it's going to be for an album cover or a journal cover or something like that. So we'll have that. It's going to be our cover. We'll just give it some color, maybe a soft pink. And then I'm going to add some text and the letter M. Let's resize this. Oops. Yeah. I want to change this font as well. I think that might be better. So I can stretch it to whatever size I like. Just move that over there for now. Okay. And I'll give that a fill as well. Now, I'm going to create the letter or the name, and in this case it's going to be Mum. Oops. The caps lock off. And I'm going to change this to, let's try Baby Darling. Because that is something we can actually weld those letters together to create the top portion. So let's go to process overlap and we'll weld that together. So that should be, yeah, that's fine. Right, now let's get it into place where we want it. And I'm going to have mine like that. If I want to make sure it's in the center, I can go to a line. Let's see, I think I might need to maybe that's a bit better, I think. Right, so the next thing we need to do is to create an offset for Mum, and I'm going to go up in size to about 0.29, and depending on how big an offset you have, that's going to change the shape of the underlying letter, but I think that's fine. It's going to be outward, rounded, right, and click on OK. Right, so we have our offset now, and I think that looks pretty good. So going into layers, I'm going to select the letter, or the letter M, so the text there, and this is our resulting shape, our offset. So if I hold down Control and click that, I've highlighted both of those, and then I can go to Edit and to Process Overlap and remove overlap. Okay, and now this was my offset, and if I wanted to, I can keep that, or I can discard it. I'm going to keep it for now and then come back to it. And now you can see I've got the perfect cutout so that I can place the word mum inside of here. Let's just change this. And now when I piece this together, I'll have my album cover, the letter M, and then the word is going to fit perfectly in there. Now you could, of course, place this back inside of here, and then place the word on there. Let's bring it to the top. You still have that offset, which has made that shadow behind there, and you have that. Or you can take this and make the offset inward. Should make that a little bit smaller. Let's give that some fill, just so that we can expose that a little more. So let's send that like so, and you have something even more different. Can you be more different? I think you can be more different. You can be different. So there we have it. Another use for the offset. So I hope you'll have a play with this function and see what you can come up with. I mean, I've only come up with just a few little ideas here, and I find that I use it an awful lot, especially in card making. Thank you for stopping by to watch this video today. And if you aren't already subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so today. Be sure to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future uploads. A big thank you to all my subscribers, and if you have an idea that you would like to have me explore as far as Canvas Workspace, then please leave me a comment and I'll see what I can do. In the meantime, please stay safe and crafty hubs. Bye.